Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate all of you being here for what we hope is an exciting and certainly a very important press conference for us. On behalf of the Kiefer Foundation, my name's Steve Kiefer, and I'm the chairman of the Kiefer Foundation, and I'm also joined by Michigan Department of Transportation. Director Kirk Steudle is with us, and on behalf of both of us, we're ready to make this announcement today. We believe that this is certainly a very important day for the Kiefer Foundation, but also an important day for the state of Michigan. It's really an exciting example of private and public cooperation to come together in the spirit of highway safety and public safety. I'm extremely pleased to have Lieutenant Governor Calley here with us, and of course the Chairman and CEO of General Motors, Mary Barra, and I mentioned Kirk Steudle as well. Thank you all so much for being here. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Governor Calley to make some initial remarks, and I'll be back to tell you a little bit more about Mitchell in just a moment. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor.
Well, thank you, Steve, and thank you all for your interest in being a part of this announcement. This is the first time that we've had a public-private partnership on a cable project in the state of Michigan. And you may have noticed several years back that these cable barriers started showing up along highways to avoid the potential of cars crossing over a median and incoming into oncoming traffic. And but sadly, they're not everywhere that they need to be yet. And so this partnership will start, I believe, next week in the installation of 1.66 miles on I-96 near Weberville, which was unfortunately the location of such a tragic accident that took Mitchell Kieffer's life. And so today's announcement is part about the physical barrier that will be installed that has that has potential to save lives in the same types of circumstances that took Mitchell's life. But it also is an opportunity to raise awareness about distracted driving. And so we hope that we can come away from this both stronger as a state with this partnership between MDOT and the foundation, but also with a heightened awareness of the dangers of distracted driving. So for your interest and your coverage in that, thank you so much, and I'll turn it back over to Steve.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. So let me tell you a little bit about Mitchell, and please take an opportunity to look around the room a bit. You can see Mitchell's banner on the window to the left here, and some of his hockey equipment to the right. Mitchell was an amazing young man. Mitchell was a man that was going to change the world, and I think he still is through our foundation. Mitchell was a state championship hockey player. He was the goalie on Detroit Catholic Central's hockey team last year when they won their state championship, and I still wear his state championship ring every day. It was nearly a year ago, so September 19th of last year, that Mitchell was on his way back to East Lansing. It was his first month at Michigan State, freshman with the world and his whole life ahead of him. And unfortunately, on a beautiful Monday morning at 7:50 a.m., dry road, sunny day, there was a bit of heavy traffic. Mitchell slowed down, and unfortunately, a young woman that was clearly distracted did not. And Mitchell's car was struck from behind with such force that it was driven across the median into oncoming traffic, and Mitchell's car was broadsided by a truck, and Mitchell was killed instantly. Mitchell was driven across a median that was 52 feet wide, just 52 feet wide, and a median that unfortunately had no cable barrier, no safety barrier, and that's really what allowed him to transfer into oncoming traffic. You know, when I first heard the news that day, that afternoon at the house, I got to say I just collapsed in pain. It's really a parent's absolute worst nightmare, and I think what all of you should think about is it could just as easily be your loved one or your child. It's obviously just a horrific thing that happened to our family, and we decided as a family, though, these kinds of things can actually destroy your family. They can really take you to the depths of despair, or you can try to repurpose your life and try to make something good come from it. So we decided the latter, together with my family, who I'll introduce you to in a moment. We decided to set up the Kiefer Foundation to try to help change the course of history here and try to change behavior and create awareness around the dangers of distracted driving. And that's really one of the foundations of our foundation. This project, which is, as Lieutenant Governor said, will put the cable guardrails in the area of Dietz Road on I-96, will have the potential to save lives. We can't bring Mitchell back, but hopefully it can save someone else's life. And also it gives us this opportunity to tell the story and to really raise the awareness around distracted driving. So it's extremely important to us to use projects like this, and thank you again, Director Steudle, for supporting this, to raise awareness. I'd also just like to take a moment and say that over these last 11 months or so, we've done a number of other things with the foundation. The foundation has established scholarship funds at Detroit Catholic Central and Detroit Cristo Rey to help needy individuals go to those schools that otherwise wouldn't be able to get such an education. We're also putting some activities in place through a partnership with an organization called the Peers Foundation. This organization is focused on using virtual reality and augmented reality to simulate driving experiences such as distracted driving or drunk driving for young individuals, and then have them in a safe environment experience the feeling of distracted driving and crashing vehicles. We think that this will have a huge impact on young people that go through that, and our goal is to get that into more of the high schools and more public settings. And then finally, we will soon be announcing a partnership with another organization we're not ready to talk about today, but it will have access to 650,000 young people around the country, and that will help us spread this awareness on distracted driving. We hope to announce that here within the next month. So a lot of good that we will try to make come from just a horrific situation for our family. So I thank you all for being here and helping us spread that message. I'll be back up in a moment to make a few more comments, but at this time I'd like to turn it over to General Motors Chairman and CEO Mary Barra. Mary, thanks so much for being here.
Well, I too want to thank everybody for being here today. It's a very important topic. Through the Mitchell Kiefer Foundation, the Kieffer family has turned an unimaginable personal tragedy into a positive way to help others. As a parent, a colleague, and a friend, I admire Steve and his courage and selflessness in leading this important foundation. Unfortunately, the painful and avoidable loss the Kieffers experienced occurs every day in this country. In 2015, 10% of vehicle crash fatalities and 18% of injuries were due to distracted driving. The safety barrier funded by the Kiefer Foundation and the Michigan Department of Transportation demonstrates how an innovative private-public partnership has the potential to make our roads safer and to save lives. It also reminds us that despite the great strides the auto industry and government have made to improve road safety, we have much more to do, including in the area of driver behavior. For years, automakers have committed resources to protect passengers when crashes happen. This week in particular, during our annual internal Global Safety Week, the GM team is very focused on road safety. But with 94% of fatal crashes caused by human behavior, the potential to avoid these crashes altogether is literally in our hands. It's why we are so encouraged by the self-driving vehicle technology we are testing right now on real roads in Michigan, California, and Arizona. Self-driving cars won't operate while impaired by drugs or alcohol. They won't be distracted by a call or a text, and they won't drive drowsy or recklessly, and their speed will be appropriate to the conditions. It will be some time before this technology is widespread and available, and there'll be many, many years where traditionally driven vehicles will be with us. So in the meantime, we will continue to use technology and work with partners to address driver behaviors such as seatbelt use, distraction, impairment, and speed. Our longstanding partnership with organizations like Safe Kids Worldwide and others support efforts to reduce the number of vehicle injuries and deaths from driver error and work to make our roads safer for everyone. By working together, we can envision the day when families like the Kieffers and thousands of others no longer get the phone call that changes their life forever. So thank you again to Steve, Paula, and the entire Kieffer family for your leadership and for your courage. And for everyone here, please urge all drivers in your life, especially young drivers, to keep their eyes on the road and hands on the wheel. Again, thank you for being here for this very important message.
Thank you so much, Mary. I'd now like to welcome Director Kirk Steudle to the podium to make a few comments specifically about this guardrail project. Director Steudle.
Steve, thanks. Mary, thanks for your leadership and putting your voice behind this as well. Lieutenant Governor, thanks for all you're doing, keeping us moving forward as a state as well. You know, some facts about cable guardrails. 2008, we did a pilot here in the state of Michigan that says maybe we should be putting more cable guardrails in across the state. It was a new technology. We tried it out and we said, this is going to be good. We started on a 3-year program to install cable guardrails in the most narrow medians across the state. And all told, we have 380 miles. In the next 4 years, there's another 20 miles that are set to go in at a cost of about $4.5 million. Those are largely funded with federal safety funds that are set aside specifically for safety improvements, signs, guardrails, the like, and there's a state match that's required with that as well. This project, when Steve came forward and said we want to do something here, I remember that very first meeting, and I can't tell you the number of families that I have talked with that have lost a loved one on a highway. But what was different was there was a commitment to really make something happen. And Steve and your family, thank you for the foundation. Thank you for taking this voice for highway safety. I see many of my colleagues in the back from the department, and safety, road safety to us is very, very important. In fact, we have a campaign that you'll see them. They have a button on it that says TZD. It's Towards Zero Deaths. And it's tough at times to get that message out because it doesn't resonate with people until it hits somebody. And that's when you really understand that that really is the goal of where we have to be. You know, last year there was 35,000 fatalities in the country. There was over 1,000 in the state of Michigan. So if you break that down, in the state of Michigan, that's 20 per week. That's 3 per day. So if you think about what should our goal be, right? There's 1,000 or 35,000. What should the goal be? So we went out, we did a little video, and we asked people, how many people die on the roadways? The numbers were all over the board, not even close. Then we told them it was 35,000 or 1,000 in Michigan. We said, what should that goal be? And they said, 1,000, right? Maybe 500 or some number, maybe half. And then we looked at them and said, well, what is it for your family? What is it for your family? And they said, well, 0. I said, well, shouldn't that be for every family? The vision has to be 0. We have to get to 0. It's going to take all of those pieces. Chairman Barra, we applaud the self-driving technology you're working on. We see that exactly as the safety promise that all the researchers are saying. That helps us with our mission of making sure that everybody goes home safe every night, and hopefully we can get to 0. So when you see those pins Towards Zero Deaths, I hope it resonates with eyes on the road, hands on the wheel. It all comes together. You know, at the end of the day, one fatality is too many. But I certainly applaud you for using your voice, using that energy. As you said, there's many ways you can go. Using that energy to make a difference. And I think together with this partnership, we can make a difference. In the end, the Kiefer Foundation is ultimately putting up half the cost of this new barrier in the Williamston area. It's about $300,000 for half. Department of Transportation is putting up the other half. To my knowledge, and I've been in this job for just close to 12 years, this is the first time there was private money invested in a safety feature on a roadway. There's many times that there's money invested in something that makes a return. But in this case, the return is in lives that will eventually be saved. So, Steve, thank you very much. I look forward to the partnership, and thank you for the example. And your outreach to all of those 600,000 students, I think, is going to be tremendous. Let's make sure that all of them come home every day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Steudle. I was thinking about our first meeting also, and you told me that same story about the research. How many is too many for your family? Can you imagine another stat? 9 people every day in this country are killed by distracted drivers. 9 people every day. And I think about that, and I just can't imagine that today there's 9 families that are feeling the pain that my family felt, nearly a year ago, and tomorrow again, and the next day again. It is just absolutely horrific. So I so appreciate all of you being here today and helping support this cause. To be honest with you, I wish none of us were here. I wish that Mitchell would have made it safely a year ago back to his dorm room at Michigan State. I wish that the young lady that was driving behind him would not have been distracted. I wish that he was starting his second year as a sophomore this week at Michigan State. But we can't change that, unfortunately. So, as we've thought about it as a family, all we can do is try to make a difference, and I appreciate your support in helping us make a difference. This really is a behavioral issue, and we have the technology, we have the capability to change these things, but I think all of you know that it is much more behavioral than anything. And I reflect back a little bit and just think about this. Think about what we've been able to change over the last 20 years. I mean, the amount of people that are think that it's socially acceptable to drink and drive. It's totally socially unacceptable to drink and drive. Nobody would do it. Your children wouldn't do it. You wouldn't allow it. How about seatbelt usage? Seatbelt usage is certainly on the rise, and it's becoming almost abnormal to see somebody not wearing a seatbelt. Think about smoking. You'd be aghast if somebody lit a cigarette in here right now, or at a public restaurant, or on an airplane. Yet every one of us will tolerate somebody grabbing the cell phone in a 2,000-pound vehicle when they're driving. And many of us are guilty of doing it ourselves. And that's the kind of behavioral change that I'm sure that we can fix. We don't have 20 years to fix this. I think with the speed of social media these days, we can fix it much, much faster. And today what we're asking is for your help in eliminating distracted driving. Our goal as a foundation is to eliminate deaths related with distracted driving within the next 5 years. 5 years is a huge, huge task. It's a lot to do in 5 years, but again, at the pace of change, the pace of information, the pace of behavioral change that I think we can affect, I think we can have a huge effect within the next 5 years. So please join our foundation in trying to make this happen. And in the meantime, we appreciate your personal support. This is really up to all of you. You can all impact what you do yourself, what your families do, and please help us by putting the phones away and, as Mary mentioned, keeping the eyes on the road, hands on the wheel. I appreciate all your support today, and thank you all for being here. Thanks.